Yo, in this video, I'm going to show you some tips and some tricks with the i3 window manager and some stuff that I really wish I knew when I first started off. And well, first of all, I want to mention that I'm using Arch Linux, so some of the stuff might not work exactly as expected on your system. Probably it will, but it might not. And I remember when I first started off with i3, I was on Ubuntu, and it was just a pain in the ass to get stuff to work. So honestly, I just recommend switch to Arch. I mean, there's no real reason not to be honest. It's just so much better than Ubuntu these days. So I would recommend that if you're still on Ubuntu. And second of all, if you have no idea what i3 is, then I guess this video is not really for you, and you should look into it. And there's a great user guide here on the official website, and it goes through some really basic ideas of i3 and what it really is. And I guess the main gist of it is it's instead of having like a large desktop with a lot of like big fat buttons to press, instead everything is like a shortcut, or just a couple key presses away, and you really don't need to use the mouse for anything. Really the only thing I use the mouse for these days is like web browsing, and even that you could get away with only using the keyboard. And what oops, what you'll find is using the mouse is very inefficient, and using shortcuts just gets stuff done a lot faster. And actually, what inspired me to make this video is also saw some old screenshots from Twitter, and yeah, you can see this looks a lot different than what it was now. You can see here I had some gaps. Here I decided not to have gaps. Now I have gaps again. And so yeah, as you can see, like I've used this for like a long time. When is this from? June, and it's November now. So I've accumulated some kind of cool stuff which I want to share with you now. And the first thing, which I think is kind of cool, which actually this article goes a bit into, and that's the idea of like scratch pads and like floating windows which you can move around different workspaces. And I guess the easiest way to show this is to open them. So I have two right now. I have one which is just mapped to mod and Y, which is my music player, which is Seamuse, which I actually made a video about. And it's really nice. I can just play a song over here, switch to another window, open, play a song, close, really simple stuff. And all of this is basically down here. And so what you'll do is you open a window. In my case, it's Kitty, which is my terminal emulator, which is like this thing right here, right? And so what I'm doing is opening Kitty. If you're wondering what X and O stuff means, it's just a macro or a variable for exec dash no dash startup ID. You could just do exec as well. I prefer without the startup ID, but it doesn't really matter. And so I'm starting an instance of my terminal emulator, and I use this dash name, which if you look at the man page of Kitty, you can actually like set a name to like this specific instance of Kitty, which means I can modify it slightly, and I just set the font size, which doesn't really matter. And this just means I'm opening Seamuse. And then basically for this instance of my terminal emulator, which is called Seamuse, I'm setting floating to enabled, which if you don't know what means, you can basically press mod shift space, and now you can hold in mod and you can like move this window around, and that's basically what floating means. Now this window right here is floating, and now it's like not floating. And then resize just unsurprisingly sets the size, and it's like every time it also goes in the middle, right? and then move scratch pad, which is basically now this is a scratch pad, and then I set the pixel to 5, the border around here, which is, as you can see, slightly bigger than the other one. And oh, oops, well, now I'm on this one, but yeah, it's basically the same. So this is my drop down menu, which I press with mod T, and yeah, it's pretty much the same idea as the other one. These are like pretty much the same, right? And this can be super useful because sometimes you just, you know, want to use a calculator real quick. Yeah, that's great math. And for example, sometimes you want to convert stuff from like hex to decimal or the other way around and stuff like that, and it's really convenient to just be able to like press a key, do some simple arithmetic or really whatever. So yeah, using scratch pads, or actually I guess the right term is drop down menus, is really nice. Okay, so one really important thing which I forgot to mention is how do you open these scratch pads? And the easiest way is just to bind a key to the specific instance. So as I said, I have mod C for this dropdown, and I have mod Y for this CMUS instance. And what you do is you'll add these two lines, which just does scratch pad show and then semicolon, because we want to do multiple things with one key press, right? And we'll also move this to like the area on the right here, and we'll do the CMUS window to the middle, right? And yeah, I should have mentioned that. One thing which took me quite some time to realize is instead of so you might have heard actually of a program called sev, which basically prints the contents of an X event. So I can press sev, and now I can press a keyboard, a key on my keyboard. And yeah, this will print stuff about that key press, right? So for example, if you want to map the volume up key on your keyboard to basically increase the volume, I didn't really know this was a possibility without using sev, xev, I don't know, sev, xev. But actually what you can do is you can use this let's go back. You can use this xf86, and this is like a bunch of like keys which are mapped to different things on your keyboard. So you can bind the xf86 audio raise volume to your script, which changes your volume. And just for clarity, I guess I can show you what this does, this change volume script. And yeah, this basically takes in an argument. You can see 5, then you can see it just sets the volume to the new value, which is the old plus whatever was given in, and basically just also clamps this to the range of 0 to 100, because we obviously do not want to exceed a 100 volume, 100%. And so that's really nice. And for example, now I can start a song and I can press the pause on my keyboard, and you can see the song paused, and that's because I've mapped xf86 audio pause to basically the script which pauses the music I'm playing. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. Same here, to use these xf86 keys, and well, I guess they're not like physical keys, it's like what the physical keys are mapped to. And it's really nice because when you're on different keyboards, you can just always press the volume up key and it will map to the same thing. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you, which probably should have been the first thing I showed you, was why on earth am I using this exec --no--startup ID instead of just doing exec. So if you do not know what exec does, you can use this program called i3-message or MSG, which you can use to run, well, you can do a lot of things in this, but one thing is you can run commands outside of the config file. So I can do exec, for example, Firefox, and this will execute Firefox, similarly to if I would have done Windows or mod B. So why am I using this exec --no--startup ID? And the reason for this, if I comment this out, I can show you. And if I now reload my config, you can see I get this ball, this like spinning ball. It's not as bad as this spinning ball on Mac, but I think that this is really annoying, and I'm not entirely sure why. Perhaps it's waiting for something, like it's waiting for an ID or something. I'm not sure, but it's really annoying. And yeah, just to fix this, every time I use exec, instead I use this exec -- no -- startup ID, and you can see, yeah, now there's no ball.